Hello, everybody. Hi, Omer. Thank you so much for being here. We're very excited to have this fireside chat. A lot of people that don't know about Haball, I'm sure you'll tell us about it as well. But just for everybody's knowledge, Haball is a B2B fintech for supply chain payments, financing, and invoicing. It was founded in 2017. It is, I believe, Sharia compliant and being used across a lot of the B2B companies in Pakistan. So let's start with your experience in Pakistan. How did this come about, and what has been your experience in navigating the regulatory and the economic framework in Pakistan?
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. So, Hubble basically came out of my own experience working for the government on a lot of large government digitization projects, specifically for Pakistan Customs, and then a tax payment product for the Federal Board of Revenue. And I realized during those projects that the supply chain transmission mechanism, which is invoicing, payments, financing, that's really broken, and that needs to be aggregated into a singular platform, especially for companies like, let's say, a Unilever or a Pepsi or a National Foods. They would have to work with a large number of banks in order to do something as simple as making a payment, getting that invoice financed, or sending their invoice data across to the buyer or across to the tax authorities. So Hubble, from the word itself, was this grand jugular vein that connects the financial ecosystem with the corporate ecosystem. And from a regulatory point of view, I think when I started, there wasn't really any regulation that was specifically designed for what we were supposed to do. We thought that it would warrant a payment systems provider license by the State Bank of Pakistan. But we also realized that this was, at this stage, when you're so early, getting that kind of regulatory baggage is a bit heavy for an organization. So we went to State Bank and we got an approval sort of arrangement where with the custodian bank, Mizan, we were able to do these large settlements of B2B payments. So that's how we sort of, at an early stage, navigated the sort of regulatory environment in the country where something as sacred as moving money has to be regulated. So with the right banking partner, we were able to convince the regulators that we should be allowed to do this.
Interesting. And when you brought this product into the market, were there any challenges in trying to explain how this would work for the corporates that you were working with?
Yeah, so I think you had to use industry words that they would understand. So our typical customer is a financial controller, a treasurer, a CFO, the guy who heads sales finance. These guys would understand words like transaction banking or cash management. These are the standard banking products that they will receive when they're managing their accounts receivable. So I think in that sense, when you compare that, oh, it's exactly like your bank's cash management system, only it's all digital, it's same day, it's instant, it's across all banks, it's agnostic. And then you start throwing your power punches that it's like cash management, only it's not one bank, it's 35 banks. It is cash management, only it's not coming the next day, it's coming today in the next 2 hours. It is cash management, but it is integrated into your ecosystem. So when you start building your sales collateral, trying to explain a B2B product, I think eventually the customers get to understand what it is.
And when you have that familiarity for them. That's very interesting. So you guys started out as primarily just B2B payments. And then you started going deeper into invoicing and financing as well. What kind of motivated this change, and how has that been for you guys?
So we were very clear that we'll stay within the B2B supply chain and just go deeper into it and find adjacency within that theater. We're not a consumer app. We're not into consumer payments or personal finance. But one thing that we were clear right in the beginning was that payment is going to be the conduit for many other use cases, which is invoicing, financing, deposit mobilization. A lot of things can come out of just being able to move money. And in my own background working for the Federal Bureau of Revenue, I realized that we always use payments to track fraud or discrepancy. So payment data can sing a lot of songs, and I think at least what we were able to see through it is that if you harvest enough payment data, you would be able to make sense out of it and use it for financing. So, yes, we started as a payments company, but that end goal was clear that this will evolve into something much more. But really, that shift at gear changed when the central bank sort of intervened and they said, why aren't you doing financing yet? And at that point in time, central bank gave us a grant to do it. So that accelerated our experiment with supply chain financing.
That's really encouraging. And when you launch this, new verticals within the same area that you're in, were there any challenges in getting the customers on board?
Yeah. So customer acquisition wasn't a big challenge. The only problem is when we launched financing, Pakistan went into an economic debt spiral, and the interest rate shot up from almost 8% to 22%. And but so Alhamdulillah, that didn't sort of demotivate us in any way that we abandoned the product. In fact, we accelerated the disbursements because, again, we had hardcore, good quality supply chain data. Yes. Payments and invoicing for some of the largest FMCGs in the country. And that sort of feeds into your confidence that these are the guys I will finance and these are the guys that I won't finance. It's very clear on what you get to do with that data. So once you make those right choices of funneling financing towards the where you will see good credit behavior, I think that sort of results into a very good credit score in terms of low losses and all of that.
Yeah.
So that was the only challenge, that selling at a higher interest rate, which meant you had to be very selective in terms of what are the quality supply chains. Because if your supplier his growth is declining because of inflation and the taxes and all of the things that were happening in the country back then, in a declining supplier environment, the buyers, the distributors are also potentially struggling. So you just have to really make sure that you're financing the right distributors and retailers. And again, it's the data that comes to rescue, where you're able to segment these things. You're not just putting on a blindfold and dispersing cash, and that helped us navigate through that difficult time.
And I believe you guys are also Sharia compliant. So I think for the audience, how is a Sharia compliant B2B fintech different from a conventional B2B fintech?
So I think in B2B, it's quintessential Sharia compliant, because the whole premise of an Islamic contract is, actual trade, actual movement of goods, representation of a real transaction. And finding a Sharia compliant structure within that, whether it's a murabaha, or a tijara or a musawwama, all of those things can sit so well when you know exactly who sold it, at what price, who got it, when did he receive it, when did he sell it further. All of that being captured across the supply chain on our platform makes it very convenient to digitize those flows. But just to simplify what it is, it's Islamic finance is nothing but a contract. There's an offer, there's an acceptance. The underlying asset has to be clear. There has to be no ambiguity in it. The price should be known, and the quality should be known, and all of those ingredients, if they're captured well into an Islamic structure, I think that qualifies it to be Islamic. And then obviously there are scholars who will vet that process and then audit if you're following through.
Interesting. I would also want to know a little bit about, I hear that there's an expansion coming into GCC, starting with Saudi. How is that? What is the plan for that? And what kind of, are you looking to take the same product? Are you expanding there with a different product line? How are you thinking about that?
So Saudi is very exciting in the sense that the supply chain financing opportunity is huge over there. It's almost as bad as it is in Pakistan, that it's not served properly. So the product that we want to go there with is the supply chain financing product. That's a growing market over there, in the sense that there are a lot of MSMEs that would require financing. And since we have a Sharia compliant product that works for a company like Coca-Cola or a Unilever, and works with a large bank like Standard Chartered or Mizan Bank, so theoretically those same principles apply to any other geography. Unilever has the same order to cash life cycle in Saudi or in Turkey or in England or in Pakistan. Similarly, the banks will behave the same way in terms of how they look at risk and how they manage risk when they're doing SME financing. So in that sense, we're very confident that that litmus test has passed. And the idea is that just to go with supply chain financing, payments and invoicing is already a mature market over there. They're at least 5 or 10 years ahead of us in that space. So there's no merit in us going in payment first. So that has to be a supply chain financing move.
So there are a lot of B2Bs at least that are now trying to move towards and expand towards Saudi market, GCC market. So what would you tell them about how do we start thinking about that expansion? Yeah. How does one actually navigate what kind of product or what part of their product should go into this market?
I think this is a financial question more than anything else. The advantage of operating of a sales and commercial and delivery and operation in Saudi is only workable, in my mind, if the tech and the operation and the asset is built in Pakistan. That's where the real arbitrage happens. That's the key thing. Yeah. Number two, Saudi is obviously 5 to 10 times, the price parity is different 5 to 10 times compared to Pakistan. So the same kind of throughput that we do in Pakistan, if it earns us 100 rupees, could potentially earn us 700 rupees in Saudi. But again, the concept is that you build here. What needs to be learned along your journey is, can you translate this tech stack into a localized environment in Saudi where you have enough partners that are invested into that ecosystem? Because obviously it's a culturally different country. It has a different language. It has different cultural norms and the way the business is conducted over there. So it's important that you're able to plug into the ecosystem. Just having a good product doesn't really guarantee that you'll be able to penetrate that market. Yeah,
no, I think this is really interesting because there are a lot of companies that are now looking into that kind of expansion and understanding that the cultural and the shift over there is really, really important. I believe we have a few minutes left, so I would really want you to tell us a little bit of what advice you would give to other founders and other companies that are building in B2B fintech.
See, when you're doing B2B SaaS, it's very clear that you're in a business where gestation is going to be very long. It's going to take you a long time to build the product. It's going to take you a long time to have a very mature sales funnel. It's going to be a long delivery project because every implementation would require some form of bespoke customization, and giving support, maintaining those SLAs in itself is going to require a team. So as you go along in your journey, you build your teams incrementally as opposed to hiring a very large team and then wasting a lot of money. B2B is core infrastructure building first, slow cooking, and then just getting it right in the beginning, because later on, once you've delivered to a large customer, a Unilever or a Procter & Gamble wouldn't give you a second chance. So you have to get it right the first time. So my advice would be that, first of all, you build the right product, you take the time that it requires, that it fundamentally does the things that it's supposed to do, the problem that you're trying to solve. You start small, don't have a very large team right in the beginning, because sales is building the product is your first problem, sales is your second problem, then delivery, and then operations. And going through this life cycle, your organization has to mature with this life cycle. So if you invest in all of those things all in one go, you're probably going to burn a lot of investor money and not really get the results out of it. So B2B is slow cooking. The marinade has to really get into the meat, and just making sure that your fundamental sales funnel is constantly moving. Because in B2B, you get those 1 or 2 big hits, and then you make a lot of money out of it. But it's not like you're going to get 5,000 customers in one go, and it's most of these platforms are not plug and play. There's a degree of customization. So in that kind of scenario, anyone who's done B2B sales, especially when it's a product that you've built, I think respecting the gestation, respecting the funnel, and then once the funnel is built, you've delivered that product, then SLA is a very overlooked area. People don't respect SLAs at all. They don't even know what SLAs are. They would just say it's a phone call of an angry customer and then just resolving that issue. No, SLA is way more deeper than that. It's business continuity, it's quality of data, it's trust, it's governance, it's severity
It's that
one incidents,
relationship.
it's relationships,
Yes.
severity 1, 2, 3, 4 classification, treating all of them very differently. I think it's that entire community you build around your product portfolio
Yes.
that adds to the strength of your SLA, and there is a reason why you would rely on one banking app and not the other. It's because it supports a very strong SLA.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. I always say that it's not just the product itself, it's the entire service around it.
Yeah.
That is the whole journey. It's not just one, login and journey.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much. This has been really insightful. Just to get a sense of what you're saying, could you just tell us like when Haball started and then how long did it take you to build the product and get that first sale? So people can also understand that does take a lot of time.
So my first Khana Puri wali sale was probably a year later
Yeah.
that I built it.
Wow.
But I think the real sale actually happened 2.5 years after building it.
So there you go.
And then the next big sale that happened was probably 6 or 7 months later. Then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And when we all came back, the world completely changed. And then from those 5 customers, we grew to 200 customers. And,
Amazing.
And that's been like 7 years now.
Thank you so much. So rewiring B2B, it's all about patience and slow cooking. Omer Bin Ahsan, thank you so much.
Thank you.